rock and roll deaths. We covered a lot of information, not just the Kurt Cobain stuff. So if you missed that, I hope you will check it out. It's available at atmshow.com. I will tell y'all, Mary in particular, I often see Mary show up in the chat there. Yes, I got the banner. Look at that, jinx. But I am unable to chat today. Not that I do a lot during the show, obviously. But anyway, I don't want y'all to think that I'm ignoring you. I can see Mary's comments, and the rest of you, I hope, can access it. But I cannot. For some reason, it's usually just me. Hopefully that's the case today. So today we're going to do a little deep dive on one Robert Maxwell, an individual that doesn't get a lot of attention in the Jeffrey Epstein story. And my guest today, Mike Rickman, I'll bring him on in just a moment. He produced a video on his YouTube channel that caught my attention, Mike's Random Thoughts. So check him out over there. And I took some notes that we will go through today with Mike. And it's just that we don't get the origin story, really. Normally we just pick it up with Jeffrey Epstein. And there's a lot of information that we need to delve into on the father of Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we do that, let me just say, coming up, we have several shows focusing on America's 250th birthday. So be looking for those next week in particular. We have a couple of Friday Lives coming up tomorrow and a week from tomorrow. And then after that, there's going to be a couple of weeks we're going to do things a little differently around here. So hope you'll tune in for those starting Thursday, July 2nd. Anyway, I'm not trying to be coy. It's very difficult trying to figure out how to explain it. But I hope that you'll be along for those rides. Okay, so I've babbled long enough. Oh, Gabby? Sorry, I haven't babbled long enough. ATMswag.com. I need to make a banner for that. I did. Look at that. ATMswag.com. She's been designing at the Mike Show merch over there that features not only Tanner, Matilda, and the new one. I don't know. I can call her Winnie, I guess, but I feel like she has to earn her stripes. But anyway, also features some Stanley stuff and, of course, Nana Malinak. There's some quotes over there from her. Okay, now I'm done. ATMswag.com. Let me get Mike in here. Mike, I'm sorry it took me forever to get all that stuff out.
Hello.
How you doing over there, man? You doing okay?
All of a sudden, I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
What? Okay, so here... Oh, back out and then come back in. Shoot. If you'll recall, back in May, we were going to have Mike on the show. And so we had some technical difficulties. But he and I were just having a good time, just talking off the air. And so this is what I do right here. See, you back out and come back in. Let's see if Mike gets that since he can't hear me. Look at that. See that? All right. So hopefully he'll see my my hieroglyphics here. There you go, right there. See that? So if he comes back in and re-enters, then we'll start. Okay, cool. I see that he has backed out. Now let's put him back on here. Can you? Oh wait, no. And now he's back. There's been nothing but technical problems on this show. It used to happen a lot more frequently than it has lately. But now we're on a rough streak here with the JFK show. That's already been rescheduled. We're going to pre-record that one. Remember when the guest was in his car last week? And then yesterday, Richard Serrett had technical issues, and so he had to do it through the phone because he didn't have power to his studio. And God bless him, he was able to make that work. And so now Mike's got some issues here. But if Mike doesn't join us for whatever reason, I took copious notes from Mike's video that I am more than ready to go over with you. And I will just say this while I wait for Mike to come back here. The official narrative is that Jeffrey Epstein never met Robert Maxwell. That's the official. In fact, and that's from Epstein's own words. I mean, he has said that he never met him. But there are multiple witnesses who beg to differ with that take. And let's just start with one of Epstein's business partners who said that Jeffrey Epstein told him that Robert Maxwell had pulled him into some national security issues and apparently taught him the art of blackmail. Wow, that's interesting. But I mean, we haven't even gotten into Robert Maxwell's story, but that would check out with who Robert Maxwell was. But someone else, a member of the Israeli intelligence, says that he saw Jeffrey Epstein in Robert Maxwell's office multiple times. Sounds like we need to find out who this Robert Maxwell cat is. Someone else, a bookkeeper, there was a model agency that supplied young girls to Jeffrey Epstein, and the bookkeeper for that guy, she was his bookkeeper for 10 years. She has testified that Robert Maxwell was the Mr. Seed Money, was the guy who financed the Jeffrey Epstein empire from its beginning. Now, I know Mike has some more information that hopefully he can get back on here and share with us, but there is just too much. When you go to Google, it's circumstantial evidence. The hell it is. It's not circumstantial evidence. It's actual witnesses who have said under oath that Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, were absolutely connected. And again, as we go through the background of one Robert Maxwell, it really puts some pieces together for the story. And I will say, I mentioned the guy with Israeli intelligence, and on that front with Israel, it takes a lot to be buried on the Mount of Olives in that country. But guess who is buried there? It is Robert Maxwell himself. So, Mike, I see you are reconnected. Let's see. Any luck now? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Everything's working.
Well, you didn't miss anything, honestly. I did what I wanted to do anyhow. It just kind of established that multiple people claim the connections between both Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Maxwell. And so I kind of set the table for you as you take us through Robert Maxwell's background and his life. I have gone out and showed the people that claim there was absolutely a connection between Robert Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. So I've set the table, and where I left it was Robert Maxwell buried at the Mount of Olives in Israel. Hold on a second, and then I promise I'm going to shut up and let you.
You're totally good.
No. Here's what I want to say. I just want to point out that we know the connection between Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel.
Definitely.
But what many people may not know is that former Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir said about Robert Maxwell when he died. He said that he was foremost a friend to Israel, and he's done more for Israel than can be said. That is a quote by the, at the time, Prime Minister talking about Robert Maxwell. So, there we go. I have thrown all that stuff out there. Why don't you take us back to Robert Maxwell's story before his name was even Robert Maxwell?
Definitely. Well, he was actually, let me look at this real quick just to see if I have his real name written down, which I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he was actually born...
Jan Ludwig Hack.
Yes,
right?
And he was Czechoslovakian. So, interesting story was during World War II, he essentially abandoned his family whenever they were all captured. And he said that the Nazis killed all of his family members. Whenever he left, he cut off his, I forget what they're called, but the curls that the Jewish people have.
Orthodox Jews, yeah.
Yes. He cut them off so that he would be recognized as Jewish, which a lot of Jewish people during World War II that were escaping actually did do.
Yeah.
But because he was able to speak 10 different languages, the British intelligence started to use him to take over the German scientific newspapers that they had at the time.
Wow.
Along with the press.
That would have been a ticket to anywhere, especially during that time. 10 languages the guy spoke?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
That's one of the things that they sought him after because he was able to talk to so many different people from that area. So the intelligence work essentially, and the fact I have this written down, he was basically a logistical person for them because he took
Hmm.
over all of their pamphlets. Because we all know that the Nazis back in World War II, their scientific program and how advanced they were. So he took over all of that. And I just recently seen an interview, interestingly enough, from a retired British intelligence officer that said that he has never heard of anybody else other than Robert Maxwell that asked the higher ups, "You should let me have a publishing press," and they did.
Wow. I mean, that's there you go. Very good. And I love how he chose the name Robert Maxwell. I mean, this guy was a psyop from the beginning. I mean, he wanted a British sounding name, and he could blend in
You know,
uh, among the
he
Brits.
said,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. He said that he chose Robert Maxwell, according to different people that knew him, because it sounded refined and British. So that's what he was going for.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so he flees from Czechoslovakia. He obviously, with his 10 languages that he has skills in, he's able
Mhm.
to get in with the because he makes his way to Britain. He joins the British military,
Mhm.
and like you said, it doesn't take long before they realize, holy crap, this guy he's intelligent. He's aggressive.
Yes,
He's a
charismatic.
very strategic thinker. Charismatic is a good word, absolutely. And so, I mean, he is like, I don't know. I mean, he's more than a spy, but I mean, he's everything.
Yes, and he had that attitude towards everything in his life. He basically had that the upbringing, and he really is a story of a kid from nowhere. Because I mean, with all his family being killed off and him basically starting everything in his family over with, he basically looked at everything like that, and he vowed never to be poor again. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Yeah,
look, if you look back on earlier when I was saying taking over the scientific press and getting the publishing press and access to that, he had that essentially gave him access to all of the knowledge and deciding what knowledge was going to get out and what knowledge wasn't going to get out, what he liked, what he didn't like.
he was the gatekeeper, really,
Hmm.
for a lot of the British related information there. And one of the things that you and I talked about, and I know you'll get to this in your story here, but he was eventually connected to multiple intelligence agencies.
Yes.
Which, when you said that to me, all I could think of was, do you recall about maybe 6 months ago? There was that delay in getting the Epstein files released and all that stuff,
Hmm.
and then they released some of them. And do you remember Mike Benz? And maybe you didn't see this. I didn't mention this to you, but I remember watching about a 20 or 30 minute presentation on X that Mike Benz did, where he was going through the Epstein files that they had released, and he kind of pieced together that Jeffrey Epstein
Hmm.
was working for multiple intelligence agencies, whether it was Mossad, MI6, CIA, you name it. Jeffrey Epstein was connected to these groups, these agencies in one form or another, which is exactly the case you make when it comes to Robert Maxwell.
Yes, exactly. And that's because when you look at Ghislaine Maxwell, she was daddy's little girl. So all of his business ventures, in fact, if you go on YouTube and you go to look into her and her backstory, she was raised around luxury and royalty because of her father and being so much work. I mean, he actually had a job working in a British Parliament at one point as one of the officials over. I don't want to say Labor Party, but it was one of their political parties. He was overseeing for a long time until he lost his seat, essentially.
Right, right. So he was a member of parliament for the Labor Party. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Yeah. Um, I mean, this guy, I mean, he lived a life, man.
He did, and he wouldn't. He this you when you think of living large like caviar, and champagne and over the top examples. That's really him. And you can see clips of him, and he was very cold in his aspect of how he approached things. And that goes for especially for his businesses. Like they said that he was very hands on, and he even admitted that in interviews. He's very much in control of what was going to get published and wasn't going to get published, and who was going to be in the say and who wasn't going to be in the say. Before we really get deeper into this, one of my favorite things I know about Ghislaine, I found out, was when she was younger and she was doing work for her father. She asked him for a meeting with Donald Trump, and this was back when Donald Trump was younger. And her father said, "Do you have your head up your ass? Why the hell would he be interested in any of your business proposals whatsoever?" And we all know what happened later on.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, and the fact that he was so big into publishing, I mean, he ends up bumping heads with Rupert Murdoch at one
Yes.
point. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking more than bumping heads. They were vicious. I mean, and you're talking in the early days, publishing, they were vicious competitors and slander campaigns and the whole nine, you know. And Robert, he tried to have that sophisticated, laid back approach of, well, he might be doing this, but my company's able to do this, you know, constantly trying to basically one up them. So I can honestly say it's an understatement when I could say how competitive they were against each
Right.
other.
Right. Right. It's just it's amazing how many threads Robert Maxwell, father of Ghislaine. I have about 4 different ways to pronounce her name, but
Ghislaine,
Ghislaine, yes.
I've been trying to dig into this a little bit because, yeah, and I know I mispronounced it on my special, as outward as that is, but I finally found out that it was Ghislaine is how it was, because one
Got
of
it.
her friends, it was a clip, and she said it's Ghislaine.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. So, much more, and you make the point in your video. He's much more than a traditional spy. You know, he
Yes,
is. I don't know. Did you use this exact phrase? I wrote it down. Broker of information.
yes,
Right. Okay. And that's such a great way. And man, when you have that kind of knowledge at your fingertips on so many people, you can
yes.
literally run the world. And this is back before there was an internet where anyone with access to Google could look up information on people. This guy, how did he go about gathering all of this information? Was it because of his connections that he developed through spy agencies over the years? Is that how he got to where
I
he was?
honest, I honestly think it was just stealing information and just being ruthless and
Yeah.
going about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right, right, right. Okay, so I've kind of dragged you all over the map, literally and figuratively here. So he works his way to Britain. Now we get through World War II, and so he has all these connections. I mean, and then obviously as a publisher as well.
Hmm.
Um, was there anything like what really he made him? Into this powerful and it's not a simple answer, Mike, I guess, now that I'm trying to
No,
formulate
it's
the question. You know, it's just over time it kind of accumulates on itself, and when you got so much dirt on so many people, and
mhm.
when you were getting connected here, I read the quote, a loose quote, from one of his former business partners, Jeffrey Epstein's former business partners, who says that Jeffrey told him, I don't know, Robert got me dragged into a national security issue and a blackmail thing. And I
Mhm.
just think that and a lot of people, I would say it's fair to say that not everyone believes that, but I don't know, man, it has the ring of truth, especially when you know what Robert Maxwell was up to.
From the beginning, he had the control of the school textbooks. Like later on, when he got deeper into it, and he
Right.
acquired
Right.
Paragon, Paragon Press.
Yes.
Okay, that gave him control of. I got it written down right here. That gave him control of essentially all the scientific journals, medical publications, academic school textbooks, And basically, by doing that, he later acquired Macmillan Inc., which was one of the biggest United States publishing firms at the time. So if you got a school textbook from that time period, from like basically from the 70s onwards, which
Yeah.
me, I was supposed to graduate in 2000, so that
Uh-huh.
would place me in that category as well. You basically only learned what Robert Maxwell wanted you to learn.
That was me. That was me. And the reason I know for a fact that it was a Macmillan textbook is because I had a Mr. Macmillan in seventh grade. So this would have been right around 80, 89, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
And I would not have remembered that publisher if not for having a teacher with the same last name. So I can confidently say that I had one of those textbooks in middle school, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the craziest part about this whole thing to me. I'm just like, so on top of all of this intelligence work that he was doing, I mean, and he was doing a lot of it. He was running the publishing firms. He was part owner of MTV Europe whenever that first launched. So he had his hands involved in that. I mean, this man was just relentless in all of that. But it does blow my mind that if it was something scientific or medical, and I'm getting it into like later on with
Mm.
Ghislaine and Jeffrey and Gates and all that, but if it was medical or scientific, he approved what basically we all, majority of us, basically learned.
Wow.
And his daughter was his daddy's little girl. I mean,
Well,
from
he named his
con-
boat after her, right? His yacht.
yes, yes. That I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here or anything, but when you look at that yacht in his activity, he was on that yacht majority of the time, as
Hmm.
often as he basically could. He treated that like his mobile command center, essentially.
Yeah. Wow.
And it wasn't just a yacht. That was like a mega yacht. That was like, look at me, look at what I have, kind of thing at that time period.
Wow. Yeah. Um, do you? And I'm putting you on the spot here. I wonder what he ultimately ended up being worth because I did see something where with Jeffrey Epstein, they valued his possessions, his estate, at worth $636 million, and that was not even counting like jewelry and oh, there was something else. Like, there were some big ticket items that weren't even rolled into that. So, and
Like,
obviously, I'm jumping around here talking about Jeffrey Epstein, but it's like again when your early backer is most likely Robert Maxwell. I mean, that's a heck of a start for your empire.
it definitely is. And, what I really think it really was is to understand that connection. So when Robert died in 1991, there was a clip, and I wish I could reference the actual name of because I just seen it 2 days ago, where somebody said that he was told Mossad that he needed them to do this, or he was going to go public with the information of the stuff that he did with them, and then he mysteriously committed suicide off the yacht.
Right. Okay. Hold on. So is that the official cause of death there that Robert Maxwell committed suicide in
Hmm.
1991, right? Yeah.
1991, yes.
Isn't that interesting? How poor
Yes.
Ghislaine, every man in her life commits suicide. That's gotta
Well,
suck.
this guy, he was a paranoid person, Keith. Okay, so there was a story, and it involves all the billionaires. So Trump is involved in it and all that. But they were at one of his yacht parties, okay, and he was so paranoid that he didn't let people, or it was didn't let them wear shoes, but he had to check their shoes and other things before they can come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how paranoid he was about how he ran things. So it's hard for me to believe that on a ship that he was on all the time, that was his mobile command center, this man would go swimming butt naked in the ocean for relaxation all the time. His companies at that time period in 1991 was facing all kinds of legal scrutiny, from
Right.
the British Empire all the way down to his companies in America. Everything was getting affected. Um, and that was really his embezzlement schemes that he was up to. He would shift money around so well. that it basically disguised itself. And then his ultimate thing was his pension funds. So the employee pension fund that all his employees paid into, he embezzled all that money basically and spent it and used it himself to keep up his public image and all that other stuff the whole time, telling him that the company's doing well, not telling him about the legal problems that was going on. He went on that yacht, that on that trip. They said he wasn't feeling well, that he was sick. Now, keep in mind that this is a personality of a man that used to pee off the side of his publishing building onto the people on the streets before he got into his private helicopter. You know what I mean? So he wasn't feeling well, and he went on his yacht that he went on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he fell off the railing in the middle of the night, drowned while swimming. When he used to swim constantly, butt naked, basically, for therapy reasons. I just find it hard to believe that someone that was swimming the ocean all the time and with his background that would just die of suicide. Ghislaine herself publicly stated that she loves the support that people were giving her family at the time, but she did state that she believed that it was an assassination.
Does she or anyone specific, has anyone said who they think would have killed Robert Maxwell? It could be anybody.
Yeah, that's
he
just
pissed
it.
off enough people.
I don't want to say that she thought that it was Mossad or Israel because of her later works that we'll touch bases on. But I don't want to say that she thought it was them as much as she just thought that it was assassination. But she did say that she thought that they killed him. Now, his sons that were in control of his business at the time, he basically left them holding all the debt and all the legal problems.
Right. And so that's one of the things that as I'm going through the Robert Maxwell story, it sounds similar to the Jeffrey Epstein story. But I do get hung up on the fact that, okay, how powerful was he when he did have all of this debt? And maybe that is ultimately what ended up leading to his demise for one reason or another. So I'm a little curious about that, and I don't have a clear understanding or even a theory on this supposed handoff of knowledge from Robert Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah,
that part right there is interestingly missing. But today I was thinking about that, and I was like, so if he died in 1991, right? And his daughter, who was, like I said, she was around royalty, Oxford, and all that kind of stuff. She flees in New York City. This is their official story. So she moved to New York City in 1991, and she got involved in the Manhattan scene, which, in the 1980s and 1990s, the stock market, real estate booms, and all that kind of stuff. Well, Jeffrey was involved in real estate, and she ended up meeting Jeffrey Epstein on a fluke, fell in love with him, became obsessed with him. And started working for him.
And that is the official story, like you said, that when she was trying to get over her dad's death, that she kind of fell into his arms. But before you joined us here, I went through 3 different witnesses who said, okay, well, I mean, maybe that's when they met. But they definitely saw Robert Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, either saw him or either knew of a real connection between the two men, obviously before he died.
See, that's what I actually do think that, because going into Jeffrey Epstein, this man born into not a rich family. His family was not rich. They were basically middle class. His father was a city worker. And he didn't even, from what I understand, he didn't even graduate college, but yet managed to get a job for the Ivy League college that he did in the schools.
Real quick, Susan asks a question, and I just Googled it for you there, Susan. She said, is it true that Maxwell had a hand in Tetris? Holy crap. British media tycoon. Wow, I didn't catch that. Okay, tell me about that.
I don't know that much about that, actually. Okay. I want to watch this. There's a movie out.
Yeah,
about it.
That's what's referenced here. It says British media tycoon Robert Maxwell and his son Kevin were major antagonists in the international battle over the rights to Tetris in the late 1980s. Their software company MirrorSoft. Oh, that might be how they make a lot of money. Anyway, the Maxwells aggressively and ultimately unsuccessfully attempted to secure the global console and arcade rights to the Soviet video game. I didn't realize it was from
It was.
Mother
There,
Russia. Oh,
that's what I'm
damn.
saying. There's a movie out about the history of Tetris and how it was developed. I want to actually catch that sometime. But I don't know if I said this earlier about Robert Maxwell was involved with, rumored to be involved with the kidnapping of a nuclear scientist that was a
No, you haven't.
whistleblower on. So this guy was a whistleblower on Israel's nuclear weapons development program.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Maxwell hopped in the scene and convinced him to let him handle it with him. And this man ended up vanishing.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it.
So you get what I'm driving at about how when
Yeah.
the British Prime Minister said he's done more for Israel than anybody's ever done.
Yeah. That's important. I mean, I think I had a handful of things there at the beginning. Yeah, and that was one of them. What a strange thing for a prime minister to say about someone that has no connection as far as the official record goes.
Just a business publishing media tycoon buried at one of the most prestigious Israeli burial plots, reserved for the highest people, like highest observed people in the Israeli culture.
Mount of Honors.
It was the most wealthiest of who's who at his funeral.
Yeah, and again, if you missed it earlier, y'all, we have a member of Israeli intelligence who says he saw Epstein in Maxwell's office multiple times. You had the bookkeeper for the guy who was providing underage models to Epstein said that Maxwell was the source of Epstein's initial fortune. And then we had a business partner of Epstein who explained how Epstein got involved with Maxwell early on, getting, quote, dragged into matters of national security and blackmail.
That's just it. You're looking at that's the weirdest part about it. When you look at Ghislaine and you look at Jeffrey, as far as criminality goes, you're looking at one of the most almost wickedest, perfect duo type of people, because she was a socialite who loved to talk to people and mingle and had all the connections with the royalty and the wealthy people and Oxford and all the proper people, right? Jeffrey Epstein was said to be socially awkward. And Ghislaine, and this is even said by scientists, by the way, about Epstein. He said that he had the knowledge to, because he was a physicist and he understood, I don't even know how he did it because based on his schooling, but he was a physicist and had a basic understanding to handle conversations and was a benefactor and donator to universities and scientific communities.
And
they said that
you're talking about Epstein, right?
Yes.
Yeah, wasn't he MIT, right? Am I wrong on that?
MIT was one of them, and Harvard was another one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
He never took off that sweater, that Harvard sweater, if you remember right, with all the pictures that he got taken of in it, which is kind of ironic when you think about
Interesting. Okay.
And what's even more, and that right there, he actually had his own office, by the way, in Harvard, I believe.
Wow. Man, I want an office at an Ivy League school just to say I have an office at an Ivy. I would never go to it. I just go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to jump the gun. If I am, let me know.
Nope.
Dalton was the prestigious school that he taught at before he was fired after 2 years of teaching there for inappropriate behavior towards the students. And then he just so happens to get a job at one of the biggest financial firms in New York City right afterwards.
It pays to have connections, I guess. I want to touch on something that I mentioned earlier, that that former Israeli intelligence officer, I had mentioned him being in the office of Maxwell multiple times, Epstein. I also have this nugget here that I didn't see originally, where he has alleged that Maxwell was helping to facilitate illegal arms sales, intelligence gathering software, and And I don't think I mentioned this earlier when I was going through the litany of three-letter agencies around the world, effectively the CIA, MI6, Mossad, obviously, but the KGB too. I mean, right? This guy
Yes,
played with everybody.
he did. Anybody and anybody. I mean, he from a Epstein from the jump start. I mean, he wanted to interact with billionaires. So when he worked for this company, he specifically sought after the largest clients that he could, and he refused to work with anybody unless they were billionaires. Now, that's was his MO before he was involved in the real estate scene and all that kind of stuff. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right. Okay, so one of the things that you had mentioned, and again, I realize we're jumping around here. It's just that there's so much information out there that we want to make sure that we get on. What was the thing you were telling me about? I'm dropping. I'm going back and forth between Maxwell and Epstein here. But what was it you were telling me about the body doubles and the
Oh,
paparazzi? Because that made me that made me want to ask some questions after you set that table.
okay. So I read, and I want to say it was one of the FBI report files. I just don't know the case number on it. But she was quoted as saying that she would love to use body doubles to fool the paparazzi whenever they were going out and about.
Okay, so then my the first thing that came to mind was, all right, I have to ask him. Does he think that Ghislaine is behind bars right now?
I actually do, but
Oh,
that's
then what
because
happened to her face?
that's the thing. I can't explain all that at all.
Okay,
And I will go into that real quick because I'll do both of them, Jeffrey and Ghislaine, because I actually
uh-huh.
enjoy this one. But you're Ghislaine. I saw the Canadian clip with the girl that supposedly looked just like her, which made me think of the body double thing from the
Right.
Jump Street. But it's her family. So on X, her one of her family members has a an account that's basically an activist account for Ghislaine to try to get her free, stating that she's innocent and all this other stuff. And that account was actually very active for a long time. If they do have her out, or they pull Jeffrey out, and that is something that I will get into because I think that's the same thing with Jeffrey Epstein. I think that both of them possibly could have been pulled out and replaced with body doubles, but put into like kind of some kind of form, I guess, of like witness protection if they are.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
but let's just say that family member of Ghislaine is trying to get her out. She may not be in on the joke that that she
Mhm.
was switched out. And that's the other thing is if you're the body double and you're living a life in prison, I, I, is she in prison?
Or is
And
she out?
hey, right, I'm talking about the body double. Is the body double in prison?
Mhm.
And she's serving time for, I don't know, knocking over a 7-Eleven. But hey, if you show up for these hearings on Zoom, we'll make sure that your family gets some good cash because you're not going anywhere. Or are they
Mhm.
just bringing somebody in there for the charade? I don't know, man. I don't know.
I
I
just think
just
that
don't
that
know.
would be difficult for him to maintain, and that's just coming from the fact that my father-in-law, he's actually locked up right now as part of the innocence program, but and I know the amount of stuff it takes for us to go visit him.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's
Hmm.
the reason why I don't see that as a possibility.
Okay.
But I do think that if they were pulled out, they would have a hard time with that because both of them got used to this life of luxury, and both of them, especially Ghislaine herself, she grew up in a lap of luxury. This woman only knew a life of private jets, private planes, yachts, big boats. Jeffrey Epstein's personality traits was more like a god complex almost, and was seeking out to try to become his own god.
Hmm.
And I just find it hard to believe that if they were out, I think it would be hard for them to I don't know how to put this, to not be seen by somebody.
Make it obvious.
Yes. You know what I
Uh,
mean? I mean,
I don't know.
I guess
I
you
don't know.
could. And
If
that's the
someone
thing.
said, "Look, you can be free," just don't be a whack-a-mole. I don't want to. I don't want to see you pop up anywhere. I mean, I would.
You know,
I
and
don't
that's the
know.
thing. Like Palm Beach Pete.
Oh
Palm
yeah.
Beach Pete
Oh,
that's
that's
always out there
right.
now.
All right.
he's
Well,
another example of the body double thing. Like
I,
I looked into him and I understand that there's an Instagram account that's his real account that's private. There's
hmm,
also his account that's Palm Beach Pete. Well, when I looked into it, I found out that he was in New York at the same time that Jeffrey Epstein was in New York.
I
Okay,
saw
they
that.
went to the same type of parties. They were both involved in real estate and commercial real estate businesses, and so was Mark Epstein, which is Palm Beach Pete. Is how he comes into this equation. So their official narrative is that Mark Epstein would walk his dog, and Palm Beach Pete would just talk to Mark Epstein about his dog. And that's how they basically know each other, was through real estate and all this other stuff. But yet that don't explain how they were at the same parties, they were in the same area of New York City at the same time, and they just so happened to move to Florida at the exact same time
Right.
involved in real estate
And
in
they're
the
both
exact
taking
same area.
right, and they're both taking selfies with the same exact background at the beach there. I mean, it's just so bizarre, man. It is so
I
weird.
mean,
Okay.
so my wife told me the other day because I was bringing this up. So I know she's gonna kill me for even bringing that up. But
Uh-oh.
I was like talking to her about it. She goes, "But why would somebody want to do that to themselves? Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if they would just so happen to look like the person, why would they seek out so many things?" I'm like, for money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
That's
don't
the
know,
only
but
reason I can think. I think he was a body double, and now that Jeffrey's gone,
mm. Oh, I see.
you know what I'm
Palm Beach
saying?
Pete, body double. I mean, Jonathan says, we haven't seen Robert Crook's family since he tried to take out Trump. I mean, I would probably lay low if I were in their position, though. But I don't know. There's something really deep going on there. I'd like to know how much they're getting.
I just
Um,
that's my thing about that is I think that he is a body double that when Jeffrey's gone, where's my money going to go?
yeah.
And he created
Okay.
this persona and he's running with it.
That's funny. And Forrest Mommy says, doesn't everybody have body doubles to throw off the paparazzi? Man, I need a clone. There's not enough hours in a day for me to do
I'm
all the
telling
things
you,
I need to do around here. So I need
that's
some
just
help.
that goes with my whole theory of the espionage thing. And if they were tied into multiple agencies, so say that Ghislaine was Jeffrey's handler, which is what my theory is, and
Yes,
she
okay, we
trained
got to
him
get
in
into
that.
that. Yeah, we got to get into that because that's a fascinating theory. Um, but hold on. Born Genius actually asks a question that was in my mind as well. I wonder how much you would make, like if you were a celebrity's body double. What do you think the compensation is on that? Somebody's got to. I'm going to ask
That
Grok
I
while
can't even
you.
think of a number
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. And while you answer this, because that's a great point that you were making off air, is you think that the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine was one of a handler. Flesh that
Hmm.
out for us, would you?
Well, I think that's very plausible because she was involved with all of her father's businesses. Like she helped
Uh-huh.
run them. She was involved with the publicity part of it. Even early on with Jeffrey Epstein, she was involved with a lot of the contracts. She was involved with running the houses. She was involved with organizing stuff. People have stated that with his bizarre. Remember earlier I said he had a. They said he had a weird social demeanor about himself,
Uh-huh.
and she basically would explain away his behavior. And I heard a story of one witness saying that a lot of the cameras, Jeffrey had some of them, but supposedly a lot of the cameras came in around the time that Ghislaine came around the picture. That's whenever he started getting all the cameras installed and all that other kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So, and
Okay.
when I heard that, then I started putting together the connection between maybe a Mossad handler, if not like her father, triple triple agent type of thing for multiple different things, and that could be the information that she actually holds that
Okay.
everybody's always talking about.
Okay. Let me just say that when I first asked Grok how much a body double getting, and it
Hmm.
gives me these SAG and AFTRA, they're thinking this stupid thing is thinking I'm talking about on a movie set or something, and that's
Okay.
like two to $300 or whatever. Now, if you do the nude stuff, That's around $500. But then I said, okay, no, to evade the paparazzi, and so I haven't read that yet. Here we go. Okay, so body doubles are employed to throw off the paparazzi, and I guess depending on the celebrity's profile, you can get between $200 and $1,000 a day to just act like you're a celebrity
Or
and have
anybody that can afford it.
yeah, to have the press follow you around mistakenly. That's awesome. Did you hear that, TMZ? So I don't know I don't know what celebrity I look like, but if y'all can think of one, I need some extra cash, so I'll
Definitely,
look into.
definitely.
Okay,
See, I mean,
so
so when you looked at that, right,
uh huh.
the handler thing, it really kind of made sense because he was involved in the business real estate scene. He was already involved in the stock market scene. He had all these schemes going with different types of people,
Mm-hmm.
and she's kind of there, like putting together different things. So she brings in Prince Andrew, and she brings in all these other higher, bigger people, and you better believe that he used them.
Yeah, and we see in the Epstein files, the ones that were conveniently released, were more damning to Britain than the U.S. Um, and
Definitely.
there's a lot of fallout over there.
Well, that's
Um,
that's over business and money too, though, because when you looked at the actual reasoning around why he was arrested, and because I remember seeing him get arrested, and I lived in England myself for 4 years as a kid when my dad was stationed over there,
mm,
so a lot of the English news I would pay attention to. And that morning when he was getting arrested, I remember watching it, and I was just floored because they were saying that he was getting arrested with giving essentially insider trading, insider
right.
business information to Thailand and other countries. I'm like, so that wasn't about child pedophilia or human
Right.
trafficking.
Well, I think what that is likely is that they get you, they find your vice,
Hmm.
and they exploit that, and they make sure that is provided to you, and then you just mentioned the cameras, and
Hmm.
so they probably
Blackmail.
keep the tape somewhere here. Now let's go to Andrew and say, hey, buddy, can you get us some information so that because we have some clients that really want to make a lot of money in the
Oh,
whatever the Thai stock market or whatever it is, right? And if your target, if your mark balks, you can just be like, hey, remember that 14-year-old that you enjoyed on the island about 3 years ago? Yeah. We have 3 hours of you with her. Here's a sample. Here's 30 seconds. We can
hmm.
release all of it if you don't want to give us that information. I think that's how it works.
The honeypot things. Yes, that's exactly how they work. They like to get you into a certain type of circumstances, and without going down the conspiracy theory
No,
angle.
please do. That's what we do here, bro.
Well, that has
Go
to go
ahead.
into like the centuries of different Hollywood sex parties and political parties that they have a history and a track record of doing this kind of behavior forever, especially the KGB. Whenever you look at that Manhattan house, for example, Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly gifted that by what was his name, Lex Wexner, the owner of Bath and Bed and Beauty and Victoria's Secret and all that.
Mm-hmm.
uh, that house was gifted to Jeffrey Epstein, and it was the biggest house in New York City at the time. They said that they had more cameras and so many different cameras running and hardware running in one room that they actually had to have coolant systems put in there just to keep them cool because there was so much running at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
And this wasn't just at one place.
Now,
This is more than New York. This is also, I watched an interview, and Keith, you got to keep in mind that some of this stuff you don't know if it's AI now with like a fake person
right.
talking, but if it is, this is a damn good one. And it was an interview with a guy that was really nervous talking to someone about what he did on the island for Jeffrey Epstein, which was tech work. You know what I mean? And I
Interesting.
found that interview fascinating because he was saying how hands on. Remember, as earlier I was talking about Robert Maxwell being hands on, how hands-on Jeffrey Epstein was with acknowledging and being involved in all of the information that they were doing. And he said that included work of editing. He said a lot of people do this, will hire people to do this, but editing Wikipedia pages, monitoring social comments, different presses, than things that they were being said, and notifying him of these type of issues. So it was basically like a constant scrubbing job being done. And he said that this guy had like biometrics to be able to get into the where the computer room was, and all that kind of stuff going on. He made it sound like he was afraid for his life still to this day about the kill switch that he has. He said, I have them all stored onto a file right now to where I can release them if I want to.
Wow. Was his face obscured in this interview, or?
It's hard to say. Nah, it wasn't. It's just a kind of like a basic everyday guy.
Okay. No, so that's what I'm saying. It was just a regular.
Mhm.
Okay, I just wondered if he was living in hiding and it was like a voice
He
garbled
he
thing.
really was. He did say he wouldn't say where he was naturally
Okay.
in the interview, but he said that he sent this to two different people. He has one and he sent it to somebody else overseas. That if anything happens to him, they have information to release it. And he said basically this is everything. This is all of
Wow.
Epstein's electronic correspondence and all the scrubbing that he did and all that kind of stuff for him. And he said that's what his job was to monitor anything being said about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and scrub it, make it go away, or make it look like painted into a different picture.
Wow. Wow. So I mean, my goodness. Okay. Uh, just as an aside here,
Mhm.
yesterday I was introduced to someone on an email chain, and this person will be a guest a couple months from now on this show, and this person was offered quite a bit from Jeffrey Epstein, is my understanding, to do some work for him. And I don't know a lot of the details at this point. I just want y'all to be tuned in August when that guest
That's gonna
appears
be
on this show.
that's gonna be a good
Yeah,
one.
and
That's gonna be a good one.
and they
He paid a
made
lot of
sure.
money.
Yeah, well, the offer was incredible, but this person had already had enough of a background with shady characters that they knew exactly. I guess exactly. I'm putting words into
Mhm.
their mouth already. But Spidey senses went up, and they got out of there as quickly as they could. So I don't want to say any more because
I,
this conversation is going to cover a lot of ground, and Jeffrey Epstein is just one part of it. Okay,
yes, that's what I was
yeah,
getting at is that web. So, like earlier, you were saying Russia, and Jeffrey Epstein had connections to Russia, to their modeling scene. Which is, are you familiar with the aspect of what Ukraine used to be like before Ukraine was Ukraine?
you have to be more specific, but I know it's a corrupt hellhole.
Okay, so you are. um,
Yeah.
Before Ukraine was the country that it is now, Ukraine was a Russian mafia mecca, and they were one of the biggest shippers of human trafficking going around, both for sexual purposes, organ trafficking, and otherwise, along with different other secret scientific type of programs. So that's what I think that he was doing over there in
Mm-hmm.
Russia.
Gotcha.
He seems to be, and I do hope we go into a couple other things, but he seems to be somebody that was constantly trying to convince somebody to do something. Like
And
he
you're
wanted to
talking
get close
now
to Putin, but
about
he wasn't.
you're talking now specifically about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Like yeah, you'll hear about how he knows Putin. Well, he begged for a meeting with Putin many different times, according to different emails. But I don't think that one ever transpired. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
yet he knew other people that was affiliated with Russian crime syndicates and all that.
Interesting. Wow.
And I mean, like the going back a little bit back to his properties. I have ADHD, so forgive me if I'm jumping around the gun, everybody.
Brother, we
Um,
all do. We all do.
so you hear about this painting of Bill
Oh
Clinton
yeah.
in the blue dress.
Yeah.
So this was placed, they said, in Manhattan, in this Manhattan townhouse. Right as you walk into the house,
Yep.
that'd be the first thing that you see. Now I ask you something. Hillary Clinton, where was her biggest businesses, her law stuff, where she was most active at with all her money?
I guess New York, right?
New York City. So, what would be the biggest way of giving a middle finger to somebody than having your husband put into a blue dress and put into the entryway as you walk into his house and saying, "I got information on you." You also
Mm-hmm.
got other things like paintings that he had done of George W. Bush and Stephen Hawking and all these other people, and supposedly doing all kinds of basically things.
Yeah, as I learn more and more about Jeffrey Epstein and all of his connections, you just have to take a step back and think we are one nation under blackmail. And
Yes,
it feels like every policy, every law, everything is all based on who has dirt on whom.
hmm
And that's why I wanted everything released from the Epstein files. I don't care, burn it all down.
that's
You
how I
know,
feel. You know what
so
I'm saying?
honestly, I
Like,
don't care if 95% of representatives and senators in Washington D.C. get taken down by what's revealed. Okay, well, we need to boil that wound out and start over. It.
that is a deep wound. I mean, when I said this stuff dates all the way back. I mean, even Hell's Fire Club that the politicians used to be part of back in the day, where they used to dress and drag and do sexual acts, and that was our founding father time period. You know what I mean?
Hold
So
up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. I'm gonna have to get more information on this right now. Say what? Say
so there's a
what?
club called the Hell's Fire Club out in Scotland that were
Okay,
a
because
lot of
all I know of Hellfire Club is Stranger Things, but you're referring to something else here.
an actual group, yes,
And
where
where
a
was
lot of the
this?
royalty and wealthy people at the time during our founding fathers' times were part of. Well, it just so happens that Benjamin Franklin was a prominent member.
I was just about to say, prime suspect number one is Benjamin. Check out my coonskin cap Franklin. Please do tell, because this
So,
all checks out in my already predisposed mind about him. I
so,
think he
so,
was awesome to hang out with, though. But go ahead.
yes, yes. I mean, a whole different day of conversation, but yeah, definitely. So, supposedly, he was a wild partier kind of guy, and this is what happened at this party. He was in the ground, and they went into it, and the rich people would do essentially what they did on Jeffrey Epstein's island. They would divulge into all their
Oh
different
no!
vices, drinking, dressing in drag,
Oh no!
homosexuality, sex, and all that other stuff. And that's why they called it the Hell's Fire Club. Um, Paranormal investigators claim that you can hear footsteps still if you go in there and all that kind of stuff.
And this is in Scotland.
Yes.
Okay, continue. This I'm sorry.
So
This is the first
no,
I've
no,
heard
I
of
just
this
meant
ever.
that's like something. So you're talking about a whole history. This isn't
Yeah.
something new to
Oh sure.
politicians at
Yeah.
all.
No. No.
Many
And
of
well,
them.
I was just about to say. I mean, the Constitution has been ignored, damn near since day one in this country.
Mhm.
Whoever it suits at the time. Um, so it would stand to reason that this information you're sharing about an Epstein Island circa 1776, that checks out.
I mean, this is like you find them, and when you're doing research, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. But you start hearing about all kinds of things. Like one of the things I do definitely want to say. I know we're an hour in, and it's going back to Epstein and his ordeal. So he was assessed with eternal life. He was assessed with eugenics, which I find fascinating. That so many people that are extremely wealthy tend to go into eugenics.
Hmm.
But he was very much involved in donating to Harvard, MIT's eugenic programs, which at the time had to do a lot to do with transsexual and gene splitting and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
He wanted to, and according to different emails, he wanted to be the master seeder of the human race, essentially have a whole society of
Right.
basically
Yeah.
about nothing but the best of the best. He would have emails with Bill Gates where they would talk about getting rid of all the stupid people and having a society of intelligent, intellectual type of people. And they wanted to do that through eugenics.
Yeah. Well, and Bill Gates. I mean,
Hmm
thanks for the vaccines in Africa, you evil son of a bitch. Real quick though, hold on. If okay, I'm it's going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I sure you and everyone watching, I don't.
Hmm.
But I can understand and again, this is, you want to talk about diverging the conversation here. I can understand what would happen with holding blackmail over people's heads and getting what you want to enrich yourself or to get certain laws passed or to protect your country of choice
Hmm.
by influencing another country. Um, but I'm hung up on the whole Hell's Fire thing. Who can you give me some more names and what would
There,
that
I don't know that
is that
I'm
just
somebody
hanging
like you.
out?
Like I like
Is that?
Benjamin Franklin.
But hold on a second. Was that debauchery for debauchery's sake, or is that also? Are you insinuating that there's blackmail involved there as well? Because I don't know of
I
any
think there
super
is.
PACs back then.
I think that it was a form of blackmail back then, or
Okay.
just the way that they were. I think that the wealthy people have a history.
Huh.
On my list of things I actually want to cover, I'm planning on going into a couple more people. Where this Epstein thing that I started is part of a human trafficking series where I'm going to go over the biggest ones. Peter Nygaard,
Hmm.
and how he's connected to the British royal family himself, all the way down to Hugh Hefner, where I'm hoping to show people that this is a thing that is done amongst the wealthy people that is a pattern.
Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to you. I'm just looking for some follow ups here because now I'm just now
Yes,
we talked about your ADHD earlier. Well, now you get to witness my
definitely,
holy crap.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So Ben Franklin definitely in the old Hellfire Club.
Hmm.
Apparently, I mean, this is interesting. Hang on. I asked. I
It is
asked.
eerie to picture Benjamin Franklin wearing a big, huge, like Renaissance dress with
Well,
like
we
a
know.
mask or something.
Well, we know why he was so popular in Europe now. He was the life of the damn party, bro. Um,
I mean, I know it's aside from Benjamin Franklin, I mean, but he did do fascinating stuff. Like when it was illegal to dig up bodies, he made it possible for where he would hire people to go dig up the graves
I
and
don't like
have
it.
them come to his house
I don't
where
like
they
it.
would secretly dissect and experiment on the human bodies.
I mean, okay, I don't like it, but uh, that that doesn't seem unbelievable. Let's put it that way.
Well, look at Epstein and the people that they're saying that he was involved in the Arizona. Look at Arizona. They said that there's a
In
secret
New
lab
Mexico,
that's
right?
there.
Yeah. Well, hang
You
on a
know what I mean?
second. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, you and I both we have competing ADHD here. It does seem, as far as founding fathers, the only American names that I recognize being involved with that would be Benjamin Franklin.
Mhm.
Um, so that's that's a win. I feel.
Yes.
Let me just look through here. Looks like fun. Looks like fun stuff. But yeah, Ben Franklin, I contend. Like if X were around, like if Ben Franklin and X were existed at the same time, he would have a banger tweet every hour on the hour. I feel like Thomas Jefferson. You know, we might hear maybe once every few weeks, but boy, when he would tweet out, it would be damn memorable. Um, so my point is on Franklin. This really this just kind of reinforces what we already know about him in
Mhm.
Europe. You know. Sorry.
Exactly. And
Okay.
exactly. No, you're good.
So
It's
let's
just
set that aside and get back to Jeffrey Epstein.
it was just that pattern I was showing to the
Yeah.
scientific community, the medical community, and the investments, and this God complex that it seems like a lot of these scientists and
Yeah.
medical benefactors have. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Him and Gates wanted to get rid of the human race and replace it with just what they deemed intelligent, intellectual type of people left, which we know that that email is credible because if you paid attention to Davos and who
Yeah.
at Davos, they stated not last Davos, the Davos before the last one. I'll never forget that one of their people from India, when she was talking about how people are comfortable with giving them all their personal medical data onto their Fitbits, and that they've proven this over a period of time that they're ready to move on to the next phase. And there was people there at Davos bringing up about how what to do with what they called the useless grazers. Well, who do you think they're talking about?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And again, I'm gonna tie it back into Bill Gates and his dad, and Planned Parenthood, and Bill Gates and his
Hmm.
people. I bring it up probably every third show, but if you haven't read, and it's available on an audiobook form, and it's not his voice, so everyone can just relax. But Robert Kennedy's book, The Real Anthony Fauci, it really should be called The Real Anthony Fauci and the Real Bill Gates, because the first half tells you all of the evil truths about Fauci, and the back half of the book does the same treatment for Gates.
Hmm.
And people do not talk enough about the death and destruction that that man left in his wake, while providing reasonably priced vaccines for Africa.
Mm.
Holy crap! And it checks out with everything you just laid out.
That's using the poor as guinea pigs. I did a series specials on eugenics where I touched bases on that about why they use third world nations
Mm-hmm.
for organ trafficking and human trafficking and all that. They said they'll come in and they're nice doctors' uniforms and they look trustworthy, and basically they wake up with
Yep.
missing organs and whatnot.
Yep.
So you're talking about a class of people, and
Or
Jeffrey
sterile,
Epstein.
or sterile, and never able to conceive.
Exactly. And you're talking about people like Epstein who encourage this. So when we get back onto him and his
Yeah.
medical experiments, I don't know for sure if he actually did have some kind of lab, like one of the victims testified that that was underneath ground. If so, you're talking about a massive construction job to be able to hold
Yeah.
something of that latitude
We
and
need
to
to
be
dig
able,
up that ranch in New Mexico. Yes.
because that's supposedly where he was doing a lot of held people captive. He was doing a lot of medical stuff going on. But when you look at his island, and I can't stop bringing this up for the past month, I was looking at Google Maps for the fun of it the other day, a while
Mm-hmm.
back, and I was reading this article about how he bought the big island right before he got arrested and everything. He finally was able to buy the big one. And when you look at it, you look at the map of Little St. James, and then you look at this big island, you'll notice that bigger St. James, there's only commercial sized properties on it, and there's only a handful of them.
Hmm.
And he owned that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he owned both islands. It wasn't just one island that he owned. That's just like I
Hmm.
found out that he owned three different jets, three different planes. He had access to multiple yachts. He had the ranch. He had both of those islands. He had his own plane, the Lolita Express, everybody knows about, that he was flying people back and
Oh, come on now. No, no, no. Oh, Mike. All right, so back out, Mike, and then come back in. I want to ask Mike, and I'll ask the audience as well. I was just about to say, what do you think? What do you think, old Jared Kushner and is Ivanka, right? Over in, is it island in Serbia? Where is it? What are they doing? What are they doing with that island? That's a lot underground at that, and and what the government over there did. Is that right? Do I have that right, y'all? I don't have all the details, obviously. Just kind of came to mind here, but that was a big purchase recently over there. And it's got a lot of underground bunkers. I guess go back to World War II, and yeah. What did Kushner and it's Ivanka, right? What did they buy, an island or something recently? You know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
Uh, okay, all right. Well,
I
check that
lost you
out
for a
because
second. I had somebody call me
yeah,
and
yeah,
lost
yeah.
you for a
That's fine.
second. A
What?
lot of people
Don't they
were
know
buying
that you're
islands.
busy?
A lot of people were buying islands at the time, though. Whenever Jeffrey was buying islands,
Uh
I
huh.
do want to point out that Lex, his business partner, that he basically took over, his favorite client was Lex, and that's how he had access to billions of dollars. He basically became his trustee and can make all the financial decisions on his accounts. But interestingly enough, he had bought that island, and whenever they were testifying in Congress, and he was asked if he's been on that island, it was, remember earlier when I was talking about how rich people have this certain personality complex, and when in Congress, when he was asked, "Have you been on an island?" He goes, "Yeah." He wanted to show me this island that he bought, this little crappy island, and I spent about an hour walking around this crappy island and basically left.
Uh huh.
And I was like, "That's interesting." When you look at how he was trying to basically say,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I need an island, bro. I want an island. Like, I just
And
want an
that's the thing.
island to
I
watch
do want to talk
football.
about that for a second, though, man, because Ghislaine had her own. Are you familiar with the? Are you familiar with the organization that she was part of? That was part of United Nations and all that.
I'm sorry. I was just being entertained by the Born Genius comment there. That caller got bumped for at the mic. Yeah, we're big time now. Okay. No, I'm not familiar at all. I don't believe.
Okay, so she had an oceanic organization that was responsible for saving the ocean. She also had access to submarines at this point, like the little
See,
mini
I want
subs.
to. Hold on. Okay, hold on. This is truth time, Mike.
Mhm.
If you could have your own submarine or your own island, which are you picking?
Honestly, at this point, with the way the world's going, I'd probably pick an island.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think the tiebreaker for me is that I got to be able to watch football,
Mhm.
and you can put a satellite dish on an island. I don't know that you're going to be able to get good reception under the sea,
Right.
but if there's nuclear fallout, you want to be underwater. That'd be better. Anyway, so what were you saying though about
So
Ghislaine
she
now in the oceans?
she even did a speech, and if you Google it, you'll see it on
Huh.
YouTube, but on the United Nations. But she was had her own organization that was saving the ocean and designed to save the ocean, supposedly. And she had little mini submarines as a result of that she would actually go use. And there's actually victims that testified to being on the different submarines as well that she had access to. So what else do you think they're trying to bring on submarines is one point that I want to bring up. The other point that I want to bring up is Ghislaine herself had access to Disney Corporation, both through her father and through Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein had a contract with the company of Disney where they would take their family cruise ships and dock at his island and let kids go swimming in
Right.
it. And that contract actually lasted to go snorkeling classes on his island. And that contract lasted all the way until the first time that he was accused of being sexually offended, being a sexually offender.
Yeah, and what was the whole point of that? Having the Disney ships there. I remember seeing this.
She,
Uh,
it was just Lane's little part of her. It was a mixture of her company and then with Jeffrey Epstein. But they had a contract because he owned. I don't know if you're familiar with a lot of maritime laws, but he can make essentially his own laws for the most part on that island. And because of the coral reef and all that, he made a contract with Disney where they said, okay, we're going to be out this far. We'll come in and we'll dock off your island, and then they could go snorkeling to see the rare coral and stuff like that that's around his island. Which,
yeah,
if you read
see.
it, you'll come across this off and on because it's a rare type of coral, and he was actually in a legal dispute with the Bahamas over destruction over some of it.
See, I got to get an island. I mean, that
I
sounds
mean,
like some side cash if you let Disney snorkel
I mean,
there.
and that's just it. You could get involved. He got involved in all the local politics as soon as he got down there. He was actually very deeply, very, very, very deeply involved in all the local politics in the U.S. Virgin Island area, as well as the fact because he owned his own island, he had to go by maritime laws, but he could also essentially create his own laws for his own island because that's his own country.
Yeah, I need an island.
You know what I mean? So he could say, this is allowed on my island, and this is allowed on my island, and this is allowed on my island. You got to think back on it. Remember, there's an interview where Jeffrey Epstein was being asked if he has any sympathy for the crimes that he's done. You're talking about a man that has a mental capacity where he feels justified because he said, well, I might have violated laws in the US, but I didn't violate laws that are legal in other countries. You know
Huh.
what I mean? So this is how his mind worked. This is why I'm going back into the suicide thing that you're talking about earlier and the body double and all that. If he was involved that deeply into eugenics,
Yeah.
that deeply involved in even COVID, with going back and forth with Gates, if he was that deeply involved in all that kind of stuff and he had that type of God complex, and believe me, a lot of the victims said that he did. You know what I mean? He was always talking about the fountain of youth and living forever and becoming like the master seeder and all this other different stuff. So there's another
Huh.
clip where there's an interview where he was asked if he was the devil, and he said, "No, I'm not, but I got a pretty good mirror." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that was the Steve Bannon interview. So when you put both of those together, I'm trying to say that a person with that psychological demeanor,
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that they're going to commit suicide. Now, granted, there was a court testimony that one inmate said that the night that he supposedly committed suicide, you heard a shriek coming from the area where his cell was that sounded like a little girl. So why would you hear a shriek?
So we think it was him, someone attacking him, or what do you think that was?
I think it was somebody that was killing him, that was hired to basically kill him.
Okay. So hang on a second. So let's just put a bow on these elements of the conversation. You think that Ghislaine is still in prison, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You think that Jeffrey Epstein is dead,
Yeah.
but was murdered in prison.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the guards getting the money and all that stuff, like and lying that she, checked on him and then came
And
back
didn't
later and
check
said,
on him?
"Just kidding, I was falsifying records and all this stuff." And then she actually Googled what Jeffrey Epstein dead and all this like.
Mm-hmm.
I
The
you got any
footage
thoughts
went,
on that?
the missing footage and all that,
Missing
and how they
footage,
try to
yeah.
say that the loop. I watched the camera footage for a long time. And that was the feed for his cell that night. And you'll see this one female guard come in and she's carrying a bag. You know what I mean? Where she's walking up there. And I think that's the female guard that you might be referring to, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just saying, I think that it's possible that he might have been assassinated. They could have even been another inmate that did it.
Yeah.
There was another podcaster. I'm trying to remember what his name was. He's a bigger one, like a big guy, but he went to his cell with the ex-CIA guy, and they were showing how there's another little section of his cell that was like a hole that the camera doesn't show. So if you wanted to drag somebody out and choke them right there, you could. You know what I mean?
And then the next thing you know, Palm Beach Pete is unemployed. He doesn't have a gig anymore.
That's just my little theory. But that goes into the psychological aspect of the God complex of, I find it hard to believe that somebody like his caliber that came from a family that was essentially middle class, but had a desire to become a billionaire and only took billionaire clients. He was involved in eugenics. He was involved in gene splitting. He was involved in all the different DNA experiments, the oceanic experiments. I have a theory about scientists and doctors. A lot of them have a God complex anyways. And I think that a lot of people like him have that. And that's why I have a hard time believing that he committed suicide.
Right.
I stick by the theory of either he was assassinated because he was going to go public with the information that he knew about, or he was pulled out. And if he was pulled out, they're living in witness seg somewhere. But even that's hard for me to believe because of they're wide known everywhere. They would have to go somewhere. So if they were to escape, right, they would have to go somewhere where there's extradition.
How about an island somewhere?
Yeah, good point. No off-grid, no internet, no photographs, no fancy parties, no caviar, no yachts.
Yeah, but if your freedom, I mean, that's an Overton window right there. I mean, it's like, look, you can either rot in prison for the rest of your life, or you could live on the down low and eat, pork and beans. You're not going to get your private jet and your yachts anymore, but it beats the alternative, right? I mean,
yes. That's why I said this. That's why I said at the end of that one on the Jeffrey Epstein one, where I said I find it possible for either one of those scenarios to basically happen. Mm-hmm. You could either one of those, I think, is very realistic, and that goes. My area of history and true crime that I love happens to be a lot of military history and then organized crime and stuff like that, and that's why I feel like somebody like on his caliber, I just don't see it happening. But it is likely. If it could happen, that's how it would happen. They'd have to be in one of those type of scenarios. Yeah. And then you got to think of how long they're going to be taken care of before they deem them not worth paying for to live like that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, any other details that you want to cover here today? I mean, I love how we've gone from the Robert Maxwell origin story and ended up making this very Jeffrey Epstein centric, which is fine. I mean, the stories are clearly
No, no,
connected.
my bad. No, I
No,
mean,
no, 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 no. That's not a criticism at all. I'm just
yeah,
saying that
there's
I just wonder, what else you want to share with us here, man?
Robert Maxwell. I want to point out one. He, you got to remember, he was a triple agent. That's one. He had
At
control of all the
least,
school textbooks. Yeah,
yeah.
he had control of all the academic school textbooks at the time. You know what I mean? He was a man. They said that his son said that he can't recall a family conversation at dinner that wasn't about money or how he bettered himself.
Mm.
He said that his exact quote was, "The man wasn't a man that you could have small talk with. Either it was something of reason to talk about or nothing at all."
Mm.
And business board meetings, they said that he was a man that 1 minute you never knew what Maxwell you're going to get. 1 minute he had the calmest demeanor, and the next minute he'd be throwing stuff around, yelling, calling a buffoon, kicking you out, firing you, or whatever else.
Yeah, we got a word for that here. It's called, boys and girls, what Mike just described. It's bipolar. That's what we have there.
I mean, and the fact that Ghislaine was raised the way she was. So remember earlier I said that she was a family. They were connected to Oxford, in the Who's Who Society there. They were so distraught over their son's death originally, because one of their siblings died, that Ghislaine herself at one point looked at her mom and said, "Mom, you do know that I exist, don't you?"
Ooh, boy.
You know what I mean?
I feel
Because
like I feel like Hunter thinks like that sometimes with Joe.
very it's very plausible, and that's where I say that their whole story kind of fits in together, because
Yeah.
of what her father did. She was a daddy's girl, so we all know what daddy's girls are like. I mean, I have a daughter and two sons, and my daughter goes everywhere with me as she can possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of daddy's girls are like that, you know. And that's how I picture her being, like the little girl that's always trying to get her father's approval, kind of thing.
Right.
Going back to the Donald Trump thing, whenever he said she wanted a meeting with him, and his response was, are you a buffoon? Do you have your head up your ass? Why would he waste his time with talking about you?"
Boy, what a supportive dad.
Yes, that's what I was trying to drive at.
Yeah.
So when you hear stories about Ghislaine, and you'll hear victims testify about how violent she was, and believe me, I do think she was. If any of the things that I have seen in this report, and a lot of it is stuff like I told my wife, there's stuff that I haven't told her about. I said there's stuff I've seen and stuff I've read about in these files that I wouldn't recommend anybody seeing or hearing or reading,
Yeah.
because they're that
They're
demented
graphic.
and
Yeah,
that twisted. Like
that's
I
the
could
word.
get into the
That's
gory and the graphic
yeah.
stuff. I could get into the beef jerky theory about how they think that he was a cannibal and shipping human flesh in the form of beef jerky. And they had a cannibal cook in New York that had a cannibal restaurant in New York that was active at the time. It was called that for shock value, supposedly. But I haven't seen anything plausible with the Epstein case. What you end up getting, because so many things are redacted and blacked out, you get a whole lot of speculation. You
Yeah.
get a lot of people saying a lot of different things that possibility could happen, and then you got a lot of people in the same circle that flock together. You know what I mean? I mean, think about the Democrats and Republicans. You have people that literally hate each other, but yet they're going to go to the same photo op. You know what I mean? Because they're the
It's all
same.
one giant club and you ain't in it.
The George Carlin quote, and that's exactly right. So when you look at how her father was raising her, are we surprised that she got with a narcissist like Jeffrey Epstein,
Mm-hmm.
who had a track record already? Remember Dalton School, where he was fired for after 2 years of working there for inappropriate behavior with students, right? That's track record number one. You know what I mean? She stuck by him, even though he was charged the first time back in Miami, Florida for sexual assault. But even though he got that lowered down to, what was it, acquiring a prostitution, I believe was the actual charge he ended up getting with, and only had to
I
serve
think
a
so.
couple, but 13 months in prison. Yeah, it's right here, 13 months, and then was released, but he only had to basically show up to sleep in that prison cell.
Right. Boy, I mean, people have been getting him out of trouble forever.
And that's what I mean. This case is so to cover it would take hours to actually go down every single angle that you
Sure.
come across into it, because you're going to come across to a lot of speculation too. I get people, because of the fact of my background and what I used to be involved with. I have people that are liberal, and I got people that aren't liberal, and a lot of liberals try to go at me about Donald Trump and this and that, and I'm like, look, you got to understand something. Here's some things to look at. Number one, Jeffrey Epstein had his hand in the modeling industry. Donald Trump had his hand in the modeling industry. You know what I mean? They both had their hand in the real estate industry. You know what I mean? And they both were competitors in the real estate industry. That's why you see so many photographs of them together. When I look at the files, except for the stuff that's AI, I haven't seen anything that's concrete evidence that shows them together in that capacity.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know what I mean? I,
but like,
it,
go ahead.
it's just one of those things to where I do want to point that out. Epstein hated Trump, both from a competitive angle and being kicked out of Mar-a-Lago.
Hmm.
And all the emails that you're going to see, there's some of them I've seen today that are starting to come out. A lot of the emails that you're going to see are showing proof of that, about how much he basically loathed Trump and hated him.
Right. Okay. So ultimately, do you think we're ever going to know the full scope, the full truth on all there is to know on Jeffrey Epstein and all that was involved with that?
That again, and that's the thing. I want to say if we get the right people in, we could, but I just don't see that happening
So no.
because,
So
yeah,
no.
you got people from the UAE. I mean, think about a honeypot operation as sophisticated as what Jeffrey Epstein's was. I'm not trying to say the guy was a genius by any means or anything like that. I think he was, like I said, I think he had I think she was his handler. I think everything was set up to basically do what they're doing. I think he was working multiple different countries like Robert was at the same time, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which could have
Yeah.
attributed to what ended up happening to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's very
You know,
plausible.
but when you have the UAE, who are some of the biggest financial players in the world market, and you got British princes, and you have royal people of different family members, and you have United States politicians, and you have all these other people involved, basically in deviant sexual acts. And I say deviant loosely because majority of the people that are wealthy, they tend, if you notice, when they commit crime, often for some reason, is far more taboo and twisted and vindictive than what a lot of people do. And I think a lot of that has to do with their financial background and what they deem that they can get away with.
Mm, yeah.
And by no
Uh,
means he's no different. And that's why I kind of graze past the other aspect, Keith, of the more gory stuff
no,
that you're
no,
going to come
that's,
across,
and
because
I've
you
seen
will
some
come
of it. I know what
across.
you're talking about, and it's out there if people want to
Yeah,
go
I
and
mean,
look
you're talking
into it.
about horrible stuff. And
It's
if it's true, I told somebody, I got in an argument with somebody the other day, and I said, look, if it's true that anybody, I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, if they're a British prince, if they're a celebrity, if they're an athlete, I don't care who they are. If they participated in anything like that, and if it
yeah.
comes out that it's actually true with the stuff that they did, and you know what I'm talking about, the little parties that supposedly did and
Hmm.
rituals and all that other stuff, if any of that comes out, then they all deserve to be handcuffed and paraded down into prison.
Yeah, that's why I say if 95% of Washington D.C. office holders are no more because of what is revealed, assuming it's all true, then
Right.
by all means,
But
get it
is it?
out there.
It is like you said earlier, like a big club. Nygaard had his own island, right? Which is Prince or King Charles's BFF back in the day. He was one of the most notorious pedophiles of world history himself, and he was even knighted by the queen herself at one point. He had his own island. Bronson had his own island. Oprah Winfrey owned a section of like kind of like an island, but not an island. It was on a peninsula over in Washington. I haven't found solid proof of this or not, but supposedly, because I can't want to say on a show on your level, so I can't say for sure, but supposedly, um, Biden himself owned an island called Hell's Island. That's a couple miles off of Dog Island, which is underneath Jeffrey Epstein's island. You know what I mean?
Well, Hmm.
So they all basically had the thing of buying islands. It's what they do
Okay.
on that islands that you got to worry about.
Right. And can I just say for the record, yes, it'd be kind of fun to have an island, but I wouldn't want to do anything illegal. I just want a quiet place to watch football on a Sunday afternoon. That's literally all I need an island for. All right. So are you going to continue with Mike's Random Thoughts over on YouTube? Are you going to continue to expose what you're uncovering as you dig through the Jeffrey Epstein related information?
I am. I'm trying to. That's why you see on Twitter, on X. I'm more active on X nowadays
Mm-hmm.
because of what happened on Facebook. I mean, man, I have a history with Meta,
Oh,
but
no.
um, because of all the censorship that I went through, believe it or not, my show has gone through 2 different name changes since I've been active. So because of all the censorship, it's a little bit harder to find, but it's actually available on Spotify and YouTube. And I do plan on continuing it. And I'm
Yeah.
posting threads as I see it on X. I'll post court documents, clips, and everything. And I do plan on continuing to do that.
It's tough
After
to get
this,
traction when they chase you from every platform, you know?
well, you know what they say is if what is it? I like to think back on Cat Williams when he said, "If you haven't had a hater by January, you need to figure out what you're doing wrong." Because a hater's job is to hate good S. So if you ain't got any in January, you got to figure out what you're doing wrong and step your game up.
I see. I see. Well, I put your X handle up there for people to follow you at Mike543. So, good Lord, man, you're not giving out your phone number, are you? What is happening,
No,
man?
that's just the thing on there.
Okay. I mean, make it something we can remember. 543-71842.
I
There will
think it
be a
was
quiz
just
later.
I just did that real quick on on the
Well,
login thing, but it is I said I don't know why it's doing that. It's supposed to be
I mean,
Mike's final thoughts.
bro, there are people driving down the road now. They're like, what the hell's his handle? It's at Mike. It's very simple. If you're driving right now, I got you covered. Here it is. It's at Mike 543-71842. All right, so you got it. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes as well so that people
So
can find it that
I
way.
do apologize. We were jumping the gun a little bit, Keith. And if there's anything that I didn't cover that you want to cover, there's a lot of. It was just I'm very careful because
Sure.
there's so many things that are false, and I've seen some of it. I've seen some of the stuff to where I've seen people that I respect, and I'm like, really, you're buying that? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And there's just so much going on, and there's just so much I can't say that if it's actually true or not. But
Right,
that's just like
and
fragile drip.
that's just
I,
good
I watched
journalism, man.
right. I watched Frazzle Drip when it first came out, like one of the pieces of it. And if that's true, that's horrible. The stuff that I saw on that. You know what I mean?
Gosh, I don't know what that is, and I'm glad I don't. Apparently,
You could picture the most horrific
yeah.
horror porno that you've ever seen in your life. But I mean, to sum it up for you, Hillary Clinton and her assistant cut off a young girl's face and then wore it and dancing around her in a ritual.
Well, this will be a fun thing to.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll be checking some different boxes today on YouTube. Is this
That's right.
video
That's
suitable
it.
for all audiences? Hell to the no.
That's it. That's the one you don't want to really touch. The Frazzle Drip one. Hillary was just talking about that in the court testimony not too long ago because she considers it part of the conspiracy theory. But this goes back to the Epstein thing. Goes back to Ghislaine. It goes back to Robert. It goes back to all of them because it shows the connections of how they're actually operating things and doing different things. Because a lot of the same wording that Weinstein had on his laptop
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of the same wording that Epstein would use. And if you're just reading it just to read it, a lot of these emails don't make freaking sense.
Right. That's a good point. Hang on a second. Hang on. Just an old guy with a mic who also has his own show. He thinks maybe you should see if at Mike 867-530-99 is available. So you can do that.
I gotta fix that. It's supposed to be, like I said, it's supposed to be just a show name, Mike's Random Thoughts.
Well, not now. Now you got to keep it at Mike 543-71842 because that's going to be in the show notes, and you got to wait a while before you change it, bro.
The funny story about that is, so originally my show name. Okay, so I've been listening to AM radio since I was a little kid, off and on, and originally I called it Blue Collar Thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to college, even though I didn't graduate high school myself. I got lucky enough to live in California where you can go to community college without graduating high school, as long as you could pass a test. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I majored in anthropology and all this, and listening to talk radio, I wanted to create a show to where, especially with my background being what it was, where people could be comfortable talking about whatever they wanted to. So, but a lot of people use big words for stuff that regular people can't understand. So I wanted to call it blue collar thoughts. So
Yeah.
that didn't work out. And
Oh, I
then
see.
I got into it with Antifa people over my socialism stuff early on, and Antifa episodes I did. So I got censored over that, and my name was completely taken down off of Spotify, Google, and everything
gosh.
else. And then I changed it again to Mike's Random Thoughts. I was like, okay, so everybody wants to say I'm
There you go.
random, and I don't stick to subject, and now I'm just gonna
Yeah.
call it random.
Yeah, that's why it's called a Wednesday Wildcard Show. I'll do whatever the hell I want on Wednesdays.
Exactly.
And can I just say, since we're talking about, some people just throw out big words and don't even know what they mean. I'll just say, here's my favorite word. It's a trivia question for you. Syzygy. It means, of course, I mean, like I have to tell you all, the alignment of three celestial bodies, such as the sun, moon, and earth, in a gravitational system. Syzygy. What a fun word. I mean, look at that. It's got three Y's. I contend that Y is the first trans letter, because that can be either a consonant or a vowel, and it comes out to shine on Syzygy. So there you go. Mike, it's been fun.
There's
man.
one thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
A little funny thing for you to look at.
All
If
right.
you guys, yourself or anybody else, something I found interesting recently, because like I said, I'm still watching clips and paying attention to the case.
Please
Urban
do.
Explorers located Jeffrey Epstein's plane in Georgia, where it's being stored at, and they went on it.
Wait, what?
They went on it. It's
I'm
available on
listening.
YouTube, and the stuff that they showed there was the evidently oils big time with these people, but there was oil and lotions. The bed was back there. There was photographs. There was files, and
when was this located?
just a couple months back by a
So he's
YouTube
still-
Urban Explorer.
Wait, so are they inferring that he's still around doing his thing, or
No, it's
Okay,
sitting there. It looks trashed up, like it's falling
I
apart.
see.
But the plane is still. It's interesting because when you think about the Biden administration, because this would have happened back whenever he was president. Not to make this completely not about Epstein or anything, but about the holding of what the FBI was back then. The plane, and that's what the Urban Explorer was pointing out. They didn't do a good job at taking evidence because it's all still there in the plane.
Oh wow!
And it's just sitting there. Like they managed to sneak on there and get in there, and they everything's still there.
Where in Georgia is it? Just in a rando field somewhere? Like where are they housing it?
I wish I would have wrote down the name of the airport, but
I'll find it. It's at an airport. Okay, I got you.
It's in YouTube though. If you go to the Urban Explorers on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, I do know one of them went back and talked to one of the airport people and asked them what's going to happen with this plane, because it looks like they just left everything in there and goes, oh, this is just going to go off to a scrapyard eventually.
What?
Yeah. So
well, I mean, you don't want to put that in a museum, but at the same time,
right?
It feels like, I don't even want to call it history. It feels like it's so infamous that it needs to be somewhere. I don't know.
Right. I mean, that's just it. Like so many things are coming back, Keith, to my mind about this thing. Like with the Urban Explorers, especially. One of them went to the island. You'll hear about that guy that successfully got on there. That got that girl on film. Remember, have you seen that one where they stuck onto the island by jet skis, and there was a girl on the phone that was looking at them?
I don't know that I know that.
I believe that was a girl that was recently arrested that used to handle all of Jeffrey Epstein stuff, because the same Urban Explorers, he left one of his buddies there, and they caught him in a boat, and she hogtied the kid. And held him at knife point or gunpoint.
Oh yeah, no. Steve Friend was talking about that on his American Radicals podcast just a few weeks back.
Yes.
Y'all need to check out Steve Friend's show.
The girl that you see on the phone is that same lady.
Oh boy,
that was arrested. So here's a bigger question about the island: who owns the island and what's going to happen to it? Because supposedly it's one of Jeffrey Epstein's business associates that actually bought the island. That. What did they say, Keith? I know you guys talked about it on your show briefly, but they prayed over the island to make it a Christian thing, and they were going to turn it into a family or an adult theme park is what the last thing I read about it. They want to make an adult theme park there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm looking up the Lolita Express. Apparently, is indeed. It was flown to Brunswick, Georgia, which is along the coast of Georgia. And that you're right. I mean, it's just sitting there, and it will likely be sold for scrap at some point. It's been there since July of 2016,
Hmm.
and it's got mold, and it's just
Yeah. It's all still
nasty.
there. I mean, like this guy had he was using a red light so he wouldn't get seen by the airport security the first time he went in there, but it's phenomenal. Like you see the bed back there and that red background that you see Jeffrey Epstein taking a picture of
Yeah.
on this plane, that's all still there. And it just makes you wonder, you know what I mean,
Wow.
what they were actually thinking at the time, because he was showing stuff that definitely electronic equipment, things that you would think that the FBI would actually take that
It's
wasn't taken.
it's
Okay.
just
The same thing happened at multiple different locations to where the FBI went in, they made a big photographic scene and basically left everything that is like electronics and all that kind of stuff just sitting there forever with the track
boy.
record
You
repeatedly
gotta
over and
love
over
how
again
thorough the FBI is at their job. Woo, they are so good.
about that type of situation
You're right, right.
because of who it is. And let's all be honest here for a second, because I know we're running out of time or whatever, but let's be honest about something though. The fact of the matter is, like, when we go back to Trump and Epstein and all this, if the Democrats had anything, if anything was in the Epstein files, right? Remember I said about what's true and what's not true with them. If anything was about Donald Trump was in there, do we not think that
Oh, it would be
Biden and all them
exploited.
would have jumped on that as fast as
Absolutely,
they could?
of course.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear the counter argument. The counter argument is, well, they didn't want to do that because that would expose some of their Democratic friends as well, which
Hmm.
is interesting because that's also the no longer AG's thing that she said recently, that almost verbatim what Donald Trump supposedly said, that if I release it, it's going to hurt my business friends. So this whole thing seems to be more about who's who in the money and protecting them. They don't
Well,
necessarily care about the victims.
yeah, exactly. Either way, if you are keeping justice from being served and from victims, um, uh, yeah, I, it feels like pedophiles are being protected.
They are.
That's the number one goal
They
for
are.
anybody in power, and it feels like for the majority of them. I'm not speaking not too broad of a brush here, but it feels like that applies to more people than not. And therefore, I know that you have something on me, so I can't reveal the something that I have on you. So why don't we all just do what we can to keep this thing from getting any bigger than it already has? And
Hmm.
there's a few people that have been outed by these releases. And the people that are in charge of those releases hope that those are enough scalps to uh, keep the truth from being released in mass. And again, I say that I don't care if it takes down the entire city of Washington D.C. I don't care. I
Hmm.
want the truth out there because, damn it, I think the answers to how we've been governed for the last 3 decades are wrapped up in those files. Quite frankly.
I really do. And that's because of what you said earlier, the weapon shipping. Epstein was involved in weapons shipping. He was involved in the genetics programs. He was involved in all these other kind of programs. I mean, but really, if you want to talk about how corrupt the government is, Michael Aquino, who used to be the second in charge of the Church of Satan, was one of the head people that helped start the psychological warfare program at the Department of Defense. Who
It's all
himself?
connected. It's all connected.
So who himself, right? Who himself was part of a daycare scandal back in the 70s where a bunch of kids mysteriously went missing and were sexually assaulted and taken in tunnels underneath the preschool. But here's a kicker: that was on a military base.
Where was this? What the hell?
I
That's
want to say that
amazing.
was in Washington, California, but that was Michael Aquino, Colonel Michael Aquino, who was head of the military psychological defense program back when it was first being developed. They hired the second priest of the Church of Satan to be head of that, who had a military career.
I'm so glad I pay my taxes.
I mean, this is phenomenal when you think about it. And that's what I mean, Keith, by you got to be careful because so many of these things lay back. And with this special that I'm working on, that's what I'm hoping to do. Because when I'm looking at this list I have back here on my desk, I have, like I said, Jimmy Savile, Peter Nygaard, Hugh Hefner. And I'm hoping to show that it's a track record, because what I'm not telling people I guess I am now. I did a Manson reboot a long time ago, because in the true crime community, I got to know a lot of the people involved in the Charles Manson case. And I'm going to do a reboot of that, because I remember seeing somewhere that there was a news article, like, when you go to Hollywood and you see those pamphlets that you can get, that's like little free magazines, like in a tourist area.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is like that when you're walking by and the guy in Vegas is like this, trying to get your attention, and then slides?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Something like that. Yeah.
You turn and then.
But there's an article. There's an article that said Charles Manson ready to talk about Hollywood sex parties that have politicians in it. And I'm trying to track down that article right now, because that's going to go with this human trafficking series that I'm currently working on, because that shows how it's like a whole thing that's been going on in the political and financial reign for centuries and for years and ongoing. You know what I mean? Because supposedly that's what he was doing. He was working for the CIA, supposedly, back in the day. You know what I mean? So I'm going to touch bases on all that. But I do want to show that, because I think that all of that's essential to understand with this case. That's why it's so difficult to understand, because we're talking about politicians, we're talking about bankers, we're talking about
our society. Our civilization is just one big blackmail operation.
It's like Ted Turner and all them. Are you a fan of Family Guy?
I never see it. I know I see the clips, but I don't watch the show.
Well, there's an episode where Peter Griffin and Bill Gates and Ted Turner get jetpacks, and they're flying, right? And Bill Gates did his own voice on the show, and Peter Griffin said, "They look like ants from up here." And Bill Gates started laughing and goes, "That's because they are ants, Peter. They're nothing but working bees."
And he had no problem reading that line, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they think about us. Hey, you keep a list behind you. I keep something behind me, and I'm proud of the dogs, because I know for a fact in the course of today's program, 2 strangers have arrived, and apparently we have appropriately made sure to look far enough ahead in this house today to keep the dogs quietly tucked away. So congratulations, a new streak of barkless shows has begun.
I totally understand that one. I have 3 dogs myself. So that's right before we got started, when you said I'm going to take a break real quick, and I'm listening to the dogs start thumping on their cage, and I'm like, come on, man, I live in an older house like this now.
Right. There you go. Keep us updated on any progress you make on these other specials, man. I appreciate it. And don't forget to follow him. Again, if you're driving, it's as simple as you please. At Mike 543-71842. But Mike, thanks so much. Mike's Random Thoughts on YouTube.
And Spotify,
And Spotify as well. All right, man. Well, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
I'm trying to get Spotify back up.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go and look for it then. Very good. So is there a presence right now if someone wants to go and follow you, and then they'll be notified when new shows pop up, or is it not on there at all right now?
No, it is. No, it is.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, Mike's Random Thoughts.
I'm not. Okay. Yeah. I've been playing I've been playing by the little social media things that they want to do now. I used to just put a middle finger and want to pick, battles with them all the time and send them emails, and I want to talk to your legal department, who's in, kind of thing. But
there you go.
Now I'm just going by the little rules and just going with it.
I like this here. As always, Born Genius gives us all the handles that go along with the show. And then, of course, there's Susan puts the don't forget to hit the like button. See, they do such a better job of promoting my show than I do.
They are. They're really good. I love it, man, because, there's something about the YouTube community, and I really do like that. And I try to tell people, I said, man, if you do shows long enough, you get to know the people. Like, you really do. Like, they'll start commenting on stuff back and forth,
Yeah, this is the greatest audience right here. Absolutely. I appreciate them so much. So, yes, 22 hours from now, I will be here for the Friday live stream. It may be me. There may be multiple people. I just don't know. You're just going to have to tune in to find out. And don't forget, next week we've got a plethora of At the Mic America 250 themed shows for you. So I hope everyone will tune in either on X or at YouTube, Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're there. All right, thanks, Mike Rickman. Thanks for making time today. I appreciate all the information you shared with us, sir. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.